registering? What is registering as a member of the collective? I just want to know, should I register? I'm here now, my entity's here officially. Should I register on you? Okay.
If you're here in Austin, I counted you as a member. You can feel like you're a member.
No, that's fine. It's great.
And no one's ever done that yet. At some point we'll have a basic kind of rule book, which will be but I haven't even bothered with that.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. It's good.
A bit like Capital Factory has, when you walk into Capital, you agree to abide by their rules. So that's the same thing.
And I was like, so I said, Mark, come and be like,
Great.
training. So I came in, just needed to do that. Oh, wait.
Yeah, Jason Keller lives here in Austin.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like,
Yeah, gonna have, hope to have another man from IT here in December to talk about some new stuff. It's gonna be Hyperledger related because it's IBM blockchain related, yeah.
Yeah, Jason's
He is good. Good boy is Jason.
yeah, where I'm like,
Good. Hello everyone, we're going to get going. I'm going to try and find the mic and how to use it. We're all professionals here. Hi everyone. Can I be heard, Joshua?
Yes, sir.
Can I be heard? Am I working? Am I on?
Yeah, I believe so.
Am I live?
Oh, do you want to know if you're live?
I don't
Are
know.
we live? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Good. Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming to the September edition of the Austin Blockchain Collective Community Meetup. And there are lots of new faces here, either that or I've got a really bad memory, which is very... So who is here for like the first time? Oh yeah, okay, right. So what they can tell you is that in the past we had meetups and they were so bad no one's come back. But I'm sure that's not the case. Anyway, I'm going to move swiftly on. My name's Pete Harris. I'm the Exec Director of the Austin Blockchain Collective, and I will tell you a tiny bit about it before we go into the presentations for tonight. If you leave here with two pieces of information, let them be this: the website. We've got a website, austinblockchaincollective.com, and we've got a Twitter, ATX Block Collect, and we've got a Twitter hashtag, Austin Blockchain. Just about everything I say tonight, where I say go to the website or look at the blog or look at the LinkedIn group or whatever, you can get to by going to our website or our Twitter. So if you've got those two bits of information, you can find out everything that we do. I think I'm right in saying that. So they're the two really important bits of information. The other sort of important bits is to know what the Austin Blockchain Collective is about, and its mission is to advocate for and showcase blockchain and crypto innovation happening here in Austin. If you go to our website, which is there, you will see listed about 110 companies, which is quite a lot really. And there's going to be some more going up there soon as I find out more about them. But it's the number of companies and projects here in Austin has blown up. We think that Austin deserves a place on the global map for blockchain, along with Silicon Valley and Toronto and Dubai and boring places like that. So we think that the way to do that is to help all of the companies and projects here do well, and if we do that, they will make Austin do well, and therefore we will be credible in saying that Austin deserves its place on the global map. So we're on our journey. We actually we got going at South by Southwest this year, so just about 6 months ago, almost I think to last week. So, and we're motoring along. I say, go to the website. From there, look at the blog, look at the LinkedIn group, and get engaged. What's next? So we'd love to be doing everything that we do because we just love it and don't need to eat and sleep and eat at night, eat during the day and sleep at night. But we have to sort of tap into some sources of currency to do that, fiat and otherwise. So we're very thankful to have some patrons and sponsors who provide financial backing to what we do. And we're certainly looking for more of them so we can spend even more time doing it. A couple I will mention, Wanchain. Is Dan here from Wanchain? You're here. Dan, tell me what's happening with Wanchain, right? What's new and hot about to happen? Do you want the mic? Come get the mic.
Hey guys, Dan Reeser here from Wanchain. We also have Scott, who just joined the team about last week. A lot going on for Wanchain right now. We just recently had our launch of our 2.0 platform, which is our interoperability with Ethereum. And then as you know, Wanchain, kind of our main value proposition is cross-chain. So cross-chain with Ethereum is not super valuable until you have cross-chain with other platforms like Bitcoin. So coming up by November, December of this year, we'll have our interoperability launch with Bitcoin. So any dApp, any decentralized exchange, any protocol built on Ethereum will be able to be interoperable with Bitcoin. So an example of that is Kyber network. You have Kyber, it's a DEX that's been kind of siloed in the Ethereum network. They'll now have access to the liquidity and volume coming from Bitcoin by the end of the year when they integrate with us. So that launch is kind of our big push right now, and then just getting the message out to these Ethereum-based companies that they need to start integrating with Wanchain's platform. Besides that, we're just building the team globally. We have a lot of people based in Beijing, China, and then we have people like Scott who are helping to build out our US-based business development advancement. So that's kind of what's going on at Wanchain right now, and I guess I'll give it back to Pete.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
What does Scott do for you? Biz Dev, good, super. So the other patron right now is someone who, a company I can't name because they're in stealth, and I don't think Dustin's here. If Dustin was here, he'd be in disguise because he's in stealth. But in due course, we'll tell you all about a new stealth startup happening in Austin. Also very happy to see some other companies helping us financially and in kind. Kilroy Blockchain, Pouch Points, which is Joshua's company, Capital Factory, who do really great things for us by providing us meetup space. They'll be promoting us as part of Austin Startup Week, so great partners to have. And Cognitive Scale, which is one of the local Austin AI companies getting very interested in blockchain. So anyone who wants to help us as a patron or supporter, see me afterwards. Moving on, we've got a meeting, we've got the agenda tonight, going to follow this basic plan, I hope. Start with some notices and shout outs. There'll be a presentation by Todd from South by Southwest, who will be talking a bit about what's coming up in 2019 in the blockchain and crypto stream, and he will be giving away a ticket for South by Southwest Interactive, I think, and which is worth billions of dollars. There'll be a quick update on Austin Blockchain Month, which is happening in October, which is going to be amazing. There'll be a feature presentation from Mark Price, which is going to be even more amazing. And then we're going to go downstairs and drink, which will be fantastic. Quick notices and updates. Austin Blockchain Collective, we have actually got a Slack channel now, which is really reserved for those amongst you who work for companies or projects to really collaborate. We still have, as totally open collaboration, Twitter, the LinkedIn group, the blog is freely available, but we've got a Slack group to help the companies here collaborate, not only in a kind of an open way, but our working groups are using Slack to sort of organize themselves, if you like. So the blog that we've got is on Medium, which you'll find via the website. There's a weekly community news blog that goes out. There are other blogs that are put out, so lots of content there. You'll have heard me mention already working groups. These are fairly small groups of companies that are working together on common causes or common interests. Getting those together right now, there's a blog post I did about 3 or 4 weeks ago, which kind of gives a lot of background to what they're about and what we're looking at. The working group we've got related to healthcare, which is very oriented around Dell Medical School, is almost certainly the most advanced working group in terms of existing and doing things. And you'll see some blogs about what's going on there. If you are involved in a company here in Austin, you really should be on our Slack. If you're not on our Slack and want to be, send me an email via the website. I'll sort you out. If you're simply an enthusiast, our blog, our Twitter feed, our LinkedIn group are all ways you can find things out and collaborate. Shout outs. This is the part where I actually ask people in the audience whether they've got anything they want to say, and I use just to structure it. Does anyone here involved in other meetups in Austin that want to say anything about what you're doing? So I think there are about a dozen meetups in Austin. 2 or 3 of them are kind of taking a bit of a break for the summer. There's a newish meetup, or new to me, the Austin Bitcoin Developers Meetup. Does anyone know that or in that? So that started 2 or 3 months ago, and if you can find out about it now from the website, the austinblockchaincollective.com website. Seems to meet every month right now down at Unchained Capital's new offices, which I presume means they've moved out of Capital Factory. But they had a meeting last week and it was full of hexadecimal numbers, so it's very technical. So if you're into that, definitely check that out. There is, just to skip ahead, during Austin Blockchain Month, we are hoping to have the first outing of the Austin Tezos meetup. They're threatening to come and do something. So yeah, we cover all the meetups and we try and promote what all the meetups are doing here in Austin as part of our mission. Has anyone else got anything they want to say about anything vaguely blockchain or crypto related without pushing their ICO or token sale or whatever it's called these days? So it's open to you guys. You can either use the mic or you shout very, very loudly.
We are looking for a back-end developer who does AWS, Node.js, and other things I won't mention right here, but essentially a back-end developer to work with mobile back-end development, tying to Ethereum and other blockchain nodes. We're also looking for a mobile Android developer that knows Kotlin specifically, because that's what we're using, since it's a direct language, not native. So that's pretty much it.
Is that
Who else?
I'm, hi, I'm Alex Tinsman. I'm the regional head of NED North America. We have some open jobs that are remote, and I just want to let people know I'm looking for a front-end and designer, front-end and design for wallets, full-stack software engineer, performance and stress engineer, a senior front-end engineer, a software engineer, and a software engineer for C++. I have business cards. I also have NED brochures. I'm the one wearing the NED shirt. I'm easy to find. So if you're interested in working remote and working on really cool technology with hundreds of use cases, come talk to me.
Also, for you people who are looking to hire, send me the information via the website, because in my weekly community blog we do list open positions. It's not a full-scale job board or anything, but it is a way to tell the world that you're hiring, and very, very brief listings, but it does get the word out.
I
Yes.
was hoping to find someone that maybe could explain more about blockchain to me and how it can be used in healthcare, and also the insurance group. I've got 2 funded projects that we're hiring for, but also I want to understand what the use cases can be to help secure and keep information accurate for medical records, for healthcare, and for the insurance, and more importantly, the reinsurance business.
Okay.
I've already got clients, and I just need to wow them and make them happy.
Right. We could possibly help you there, because we have a healthcare working group, and we should try and plug you into what. If you go to our blog, you will see some blogs by the group, including one which will go up later tonight when I get home, which Joshua wrote. But yeah, definitely after you've looked at that, throw us an email on the website, and we'll see if we can help you on that, because there are 10 a dozen companies here in Austin, very much healthcare oriented blockchain companies, and a few other companies which are kind of more horizontal, that certainly have an interest in healthcare. So we can probably help you to an extent, without a doubt.
Thank you.
Anyone for any more? You at the back, sir.
I'm a mobile app developer, web app developer, Stu Carney.
Oh yeah,
Mobile app is
Crypto Swing, yeah?
yeah.
Yeah.
Something I posted about. It's for anyone who trades on Binance. It has all 382 simultaneous monitoring for volatility. So it
Right.
helps trade, swing trade, for anyone who wants to monitor cryptocurrencies, lock in buy prices, stuff like that. So it's also
Right.
for iPhone. I don't have Android yet. I'm an iOS developer.
So you can find your Crypto Swing. So your company is listed on the website. We'll get you in to do a short demo sometime of because I've looked at your application and it looks amazing.
It's pretty powerful, these devices these days. So
Yeah.
all the analytics are happening on the device.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And historical and real time.
We'll get you in to explain it all, because there are a lot of people here. Well, a lot of people in the community here are very much into trading crypto, so they're going to be very interested in.
It's surprisingly hard to market this because all the ads you can't advertise anywhere.
Right.
Google and Facebook and Instagram, they all block.
Right, they block it because it's crypto.
So it's like,
Yeah.
it's hard to post about it.
Well, just go back to old school. Anyone for any more?
Will you tell me the name again? Sorry.
Crypto Swing.
Yeah, it's an app store
Yeah.
for iOS.
Okay.
Okay. If there's no more, I'm going to hand over now to Todd from South by Southwest, and he will talk to you about South by Southwest coming up and great things happening there. I'm going to switch the deck to his deck. If I can, yes I can. Good. View. Slideshow. Good. Todd from South by Southwest, as part of his presentation at some point, he will ask everyone in the audience to give him your business card. To avoid you all rushing up and giving business cards to him attached to $500 notes, please give me and Joshua the $500 notes and we'll relay the cards to him. I will do that when
Yeah, that's-
Todd says, I think.
Yeah, if you want to do it right now, that's fine. Yeah,
We'll do it.
yeah, sure.
Business cards anyway. While Todd
It'll make it, I'll just vamp up here for a little bit. And the drawing is for interactive badge. So, oops.
I have a post-it. Some of these developers.
That works.
What if they write their name on a piece of paper? Would that work?
It's kind of soft, interesting.
That's fine.
Does it have to be a business card?
Can be a piece of paper, your name, email address, $20 bills, $50 bills. Driver's license, passport. All right.
Did you put a card in this week?
No, I put it first.
All right, we need to go. I feel like since I'm a part of the collective leadership, I should do it. So maybe I should. I haven't been doing that. There might be one. I don't know. I think the Netflix. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Is that two? Did you give me 2 cards?
I gave you 8. Okay, cool.
All right, does everybody have their cards in for the absolutely amazing drawing? Oh my gosh. If you can get a bowl, yeah, something bigger than, I was just going to put them in my backpack. And there's a helmet if you want to use that.
Okay, that'll work great.
Works just as well. We'll do the drawing once I'm done.
Do you want to draw the name out when the time comes?
Yeah, I'll do it at the end.
Okay, all right.
We'll so nobody cuts out while I wow everybody with South by Southwest. All right, hey, I'm Todd. Sorry if this is distorting. I'm head of conference programming at South by Southwest. What that kind of means is I head up the group of people that program all the speakers and sessions, talks, whatever you want to call it, across all we do across film, music, and interactive. So I'm the guy on the right up there. Been waiting 2 days to do that joke. So this is when South by Southwest is this year, March 8th through the 17th. A lot of what I'm going to kind of cover in terms of blockchain is going to be actually taking part in the second half of the week. So I have some graphics that kind of show what that looks like. So just real quick, we also have 2 other events that happen during what we call South by Southwest weeks now. South by Southwest EDU, that's March 4th through the 7th. And then we do South by Southwest Gaming, which is at the end of the week, March 15th through 17th. So just kind of wanted to highlight those. If any part of your worlds are involved in that stuff, just jump on the website. You can find out more info about that. So just kind of want to give a 10,000-foot view of our conference programming tracks. We do 24 tracks of programming, covering everything from brands and marketing to future workplace, health and med tech, food, cities, government and politics, style and retail, media and journalism, sports, intelligent future. It's kind of a broad swath, 24 tracks over about 9 days in March. So this is a little bit of the layout of South by Southwest Week. It's a little bit hard to see, but as you can see, we kind of spread a lot of our content out all the way through the week. Some of our more tech-forward tracks like Intelligent Future, which is this one right up here, Tech Industry and Enterprise, go for 5-6 days. Entrepreneurship and Startups goes about 5 days up there. Coding and Development goes for about 4 days. And then we also have our film tracks and our music tracks right here. And then, so that would be interactive badge, this would be film, this is music, and then what we call our convergence tracks of programming that are kind of badge agnostic, anybody can get into anything on that one. So again, jump on the website if you want to kind of explore that more to kind of, if you are going to come to South by. Who's been to South by, first of all? That's why I should throw it down a little bit. Cool. So about half of you. So a couple new tracks of programming, not just going to talk about blockchain. I want to talk about cannabis first. One of these tracks we've been throwing around for a couple years about doing it about the cannabis industry. We decided to pull the trigger on that this year, do a track of programming. This actually runs concurrently with our blockchain and cryptocurrency track and also our music tracks of programming towards the later half of the week. So you can jump on the website and learn more about cannabis. So the one that matters most to this group, the blockchain and cryptocurrency track, we started this track, actually we started it last year as a series of sessions. So it was about 3 days, kind of our experiment jumping into the blockchain and cryptocurrency content world. I'll just kind of read the description here. Hear from technologists, investors, creators, and industry leaders as they explore the ways in which blockchain technologies are being deployed and discover the power of digital currencies that are fueling the exponential rise of this technology across all industries. Don't pay attention to that last paragraph because I forgot to delete it. Did not run this past my proofreader, which is only me. So like I was saying before, right here is the blockchain and cryptocurrency track. That's going to run later in the week. That's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. This is where the cannabis track is, and then our music tracks of programming are happening here too. So 3 days for blockchain and cryptocurrency. We're going to be doing about 40 to 45 sessions around it.
The cannabis is going to be concurrent with blockchain and cryptocurrency?
Yes. There is a monitor over
I
there.
have a question, if that's okay.
Go for it.
This year, 2017, I distinctly remember cryptocurrency being on the front end and overlapping a little bit of music when it kicked off, because one of the singer-songwriter performers had some Ethereum talk that she did, which was Shalita, I think. She was really, it's really good. But I noticed now that you've got it overlapped specifically in the music. Do you see some alignment there possibly, where there's some shared tracks again? Like
Yeah, definitely. And we wanted to push a little bit more tech-forward programming to later in the week to kind of get a second swell of people, and also because Austin is kind of obviously turned into kind of a hotspot for blockchain and crypto. Just kind of wanted to pull it.
Tweet you saying that?
Yes, if you want. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of the goal. We just kind of saw a lot of good parallel worlds happening across that. And so yeah, yes, and to your point, originally last year it was kind of right about here in the middle, but we decided to push it later.
The Shalita thing was my tie into it, because I knew that was the beginning of the music, and so that's why I thought about that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. So I just want to run through a couple featured blockchain.
We might have had another question.
Oh, sorry. Didn't-
Okay. Well, we try to make it
I was
interactive.
gonna say that, does that mean like, a lot of the users for blockchain crypto are also into the cannabis as well? Is that what you're trying to?
Maybe.
Direct correlation, right?
Maybe. And the music industry. I don't know anything about that. Maybe just a little bit. You're a fast learner. All right. So some of the featured blockchain speakers, so we kind of have these different levels of speaking, keynotes, featured speakers, which are kind of our high profile speakers, and then our kind of general sessions. These are a few of the featured speakers that we have confirmed. Again, remember this is kind of early in the season for us, but we're kind of excited about all of these. But I just want to kind of give you guys a little bit of a flavor. We've got Kyle from Multicoin Capital. He'll be speaking on a panel. We've got Linda from Scholar Capital. She's also going to be on a panel. Most of these people are on different panels of programming, so once the schedule goes live, you can kind of look up their name and see when and where they're speaking. Got Joseph Lubin. He's going to be back. He was a featured speaker last year. He's actually, correct myself, he's going to be a keynote this year during the blockchain and cryptocurrency track. Brian Wong from KIP. He's doing some really interesting stuff with blockchain and transparency and advertising. And Nia from MIT Media Lab, Director of Digital Currency there. So, and last one, Jimmy Song. I don't know if you saw the video from yesterday, maybe, or this weekend, where he kind of got into a little bit of an interesting debate on a cruise ship.
Is Jimmy going to be on the panel with Chris Ferris?
I don't know. But yeah,
If he is, that would be awesome.
I like to hear that. We're going to come out with kind of these kind of 10 trends that we're seeing across all our programming, kind of the key trends that we're seeing for 2019. That's going to go up on our website in the next day or two. But I kind of wanted to call out one of the key trends, which is, of course, blockchain is building Web 3.0. You can read this, or I can read it to you. Web 3.0 is being built, and it's happening fast. The sites and services we all use will look and function the same as they always have, but the layer of the web in which they are being built will be blockchain. So that's a trend within kind of the larger trend of blockchain and cryptocurrency. Can you hear me? Silence. Maybe I'll just talk loud.
There's another microphone right here if you want to step up closer to the podium.
Oh, okay,
That should pick
cool.
you up. Let me take a look at that.
Yeah, no worries. I'll just shout. So that's one of the top 10 trends for this year. One of the other things I wanted to bring up, which I think is applicable to this crowd as well, is South by Southwest Pitch. So that used to be the South by Southwest Accelerator that we've done. We've changed the name to South by Southwest Pitch. This is a quick overview of Pitch. It features 50 companies across 10 different categories. We added blockchain, I believe, last year to that, but these are some of the other categories that you can enter your startup in to do a pitch for. So again, new for 2019 is the blockchain as a category. Basically, it's just your average pitch, not average, but just a pitch event. It takes place in front of a panel of about 4 to 5 judges and a live audience. It takes place at the beginning of the week, so March 9th and 10th. There's a award ceremony March 10th at 7 p.m. So the early entry deadline is going to be October 4th. That's $100 entry fee, and then the final entry deadline is going to be November 15th. That's $220 to enter your startup in. So a couple reasons to apply to this. Definitely want to see a good uptick in the blockchain space for this. Obviously explore funding options with investors. There's lots of investors running around during the pitch event. You can take advantage of media exposure. We definitely load a lot of media into this event, and it gets covered pretty extensively. Obviously learn from top industry innovators. Gives you a chance to polish your elevator pitch, which is always a good thing. So you refine your product, you get to connect with a bunch of other top startups, even the startups that aren't presenting. Lots of startups are there just checking out each other in the competition. And of course, make career-enhancing connections. So just a little quick recap. That was kind of a 5,000-foot view. Dates for South by, March 8th through 17th. Blockchain and cryptocurrency, that's the new track for 2019. Again, blockchain and cryptocurrency track is the second half of the week, March 14th to the 16th. The pitch early deadline is the 4th of October. South by Southwest Pitch is a new blockchain category for 2019. And keep this in mind, we just had a badge registration deadline. Badges go up in price again on October 25th. Anyway, that's it. That's my email address if you want to get a hold of me, have any questions about what we're doing blockchain-wise during the conference. And that's it. If you guys have any questions, fire away.
Quick one about the panel picker. So panel picker is just ended.
Yep.
And I think I saw like 150 at least blockchain sessions, which I'm sure were voted on.
Yeah.
What happens now? Especially the people, I know some people here put into the panel picker.
Right.
How
So-
do they, what goes on now?
The secret sauce?
Yeah.
So what happens next is we kind of go into our cave and start working on programming. So we have the public voting piece, which is a third of what we look at. There's also our advisory board, which our advisory board is a few hundred folks in all different sectors and verticals that look at the programming too. And then internally, we look at we do a whole grading process. Everybody kind of does the same grading process and go from there. And then we kind of, all the track leads kind of pick the cream of the crop, and then we go into kind of a retreat mode where we kind of bunker ourselves in conference rooms and start picking based on all those variables the programming that we're going to do for about 80% of what we do in March.
And what's the timescale of you kind of doing that?
So we're starting that now actually, and we'll make our biggest content announcement October 15th.
Wow.
So that's when we'll come out with anywhere from 600 to 700 sessions across all our tracks of programming.
In tradition of blockchain transparency, are you going to have like the criteria that you use, kind of how this all happens?
Yeah, it's on the website actually.
Right.
You can find it if you just search Panel Picker. It kind of lays out our entire process for how we do the grading and the judging and kind of. I'm actually the track lead also for blockchain and cryptocurrency, so take donations.
Are you the cannabis lead as well?
I am not, but I can give you that guy's email address too.
Sorry, there's a question up front too.
Back in 2017, so I don't know how this has changed, but every time I try to go to any blockchain talk in 2017 interactive, you couldn't get in, and they had it at the smaller rooms at the JW Marriott.
Yeah.
So I didn't know. I'm assuming they're changing that.
Yes, we're in the bigger rooms at the Hilton this year. We still anticipate it's going to be really busy. There's not a whole lot we can do about that, other than
Put it in the convention center.
well, that's actually taken up with other programming as well. So with all the music programming, and then we kind of end up creating these large music stages in the convention center as well. So it's kind of a rejiggering of a lot of stuff at the second half of the week. But
But the bigger rooms.
they are bigger rooms than they were last year. So
Will you all be considering nonprofit-oriented projects?
yeah, absolutely. Anything else?
Do you want to do the giveaway?
Thank you for your service, for sure, for coming
Sure.
out tonight. So I don't know how we want to do this. If
You
you
pick.
I know too many people in here. What's that?
That's a 20. That's 100.
That's the $100 bill is my card. Yeah, it's got the joint attached to it. Oh wait, we're being recorded. Oh, a driver's license. That's a win.
I got the driver's license. Malik.
Hey! Wait, there you go. Yeah. You don't get your driver's license back. What? Do you want me to fish the? I'll take care of this, Pete. Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
cool.
Thank you, Todd.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Good. So anyone who gave a driver's license or a credit card, please get it back because we.
I'll put them on the table at the back of the room.
frightens the hell
That's
out of me.
okay with everybody.
I'm actually personally very interested in the fact that you've got Cannabusiness running alongside blockchain because I'm going to be editing an ebook coming out early next year on blockchain for the cannabis industry. So that's going to be a fun one, I think. Let's see if I can manage to get my presentation open. So I'm going to carry on and do a little.
Keep all these cards for you?
If you want to, I've got no particular need for them because everyone comes to our website, registers. So, good. Did we get the microphone going?
Oh, yeah, it's in my back pocket.
Ah, that's useful. That's helpful.
Yeah, I was just wondering because if you wanted to, we could give people, they could come back and pick up their business cards. Oh, look, that works.
Okay.
Thank you.
Certainly pick up driver's licenses and credit cards, or they will be used. Great. Before our feature presentation, I'm going to spend about 10 minutes chatting about the event that's coming up, which is not South by Southwest, but it's going to be a great prelude to it. October of this year. Next month is Austin Blockchain Month, and it's going to be amazing because there are at least 10 events happening. There might be more. So we might have a Tezos meetup during it. We might have a couple. Actually, we will have. I don't have the details yet. The CFTC are coming to town to do some quotes office hours to chat to startups about what they're doing and why you might want to talk to them. I'm sure they'll have subpoenas for everyone, so you'll be able to get together with them. I don't have the dates yet, but it is apparently happening. Also, actually, just for my benefit, who here has heard of a an IT, a software company called Tibco.
Tibco?
Yeah, about 4 or 5. Okay, so they might be coming in October or early November. So yeah, because they've figured out how to spell blockchain. So yeah. But Austin Blockchain Month is going to be essentially a collection of events happening throughout the month. Quite a few of them. So going back to the whole, if you do want to be a patron or supporter, there's lots of opportunity there to get your name well known during that amazing month. The month kicks off sensibly on October 1st, when it's going to be the blockchain track of Austin Startup Week, which is really a week-long event series run by Capital Factory here. And the blockchain track is October 1st. It's going to be here in this room. Then we've got a number of sessions lined up for it. So go to our website and click through, and that's the best way to find out information about Austin Blockchain Month. But the October 1st blockchain track, we're going to do a live podcast recording, which is kind of an intro to blockchain. We are going to look at some of the public blockchains out there that are not Bitcoin or Ethereum. We're going to look at blockchain for sort of social impact causes, blockchain for art, and going to do a panel on blockchain for business. So pretty sort of varied day, all free. Also, Capital Factory runs something on October 4th, the evening, called the Startup Crawl, where they take most of the basement of this or the ground floor of this building and lots of other parts in some other buildings, and put lots of tabletops, and people go around and meet lots of startups. And I don't know yet, but we fully expect there'll be some blockchain companies involved in that as well. So that's somewhat of an evening of mayhem from what I remember it. But so get the month going there. There's October 9th, 10 Capital, which is essentially a venture capital company here, are putting on, they also run quite a few events. They're putting on an ICO summit. If you are interested in the ICO and token business, if you're looking to do one, you should go to this. And to make it really easy, you can go for free. If you go via our website to their website and use the code ABC100, and do it fairly soon, because there are a limited number of free tickets. But there are lots of 50% off tickets, so you can get a really good deal. October 7th, 17th, Ron Resnick, who runs the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, who actually lives in North Austin, so he's going to fly in for that, will be presenting about their efforts really around making Ethereum business ready. They're really sort of turning themselves into a standards organization, and they've got some reference architectures they're coming out with. I'm sure Ron will talk about those. At the end of the month, there is the Texas Bitcoin Conference, which probably a number of you know. I think it's the fourth outing of it, running this year up at the AT&T Conference Center. You can get a discount for that via our website. I don't know much about the programming for that, because there's not a lot being listed yet, but it's a good event.
Patrick Byrne will be here for that event.
Patrick Byrne from Overstock?
Yes, sir.
Right. Is he like doing a big talk? Yeah. So, but it's a good event for sure. What else is happening? There's something called the Texata Summit, which is really a big data analytics event running for the 4th year. And I convinced them to put some content in about blockchain and how blockchain fits with big data, especially for running AI models. So we'll be doing that. This is an interesting one. On October 23rd in the morning, University of Texas is running a showcase where they will present a lot of what they're doing in terms of their faculty research, their postgrad students research, some of their undergrad kind of activities as well. So it's kind of they have formed a blockchain initiative, partly funded by a couple of $1 million from Ripple, and so they're getting their act together. This is kind of their coming out party to tell the world what they're doing, and including that how they want to engage with local startups. Collections on the block is an art show at an art gallery not far from here, which will be where you can go and look at art and drink wine probably, and pay in crypto, and the art when you buy it, it's secured on the blockchain. There'll be some more info about that coming. And finally, there are 2 events that kind of I'm programming. Our version of our meetup next month, October the 15th, will be kind of a special occasion in some way. Especially special, by the way, because, as you know, we often have a big problem with our meetups in scheduling, because we're always finding that we are competing with Supergirl on TV, on the CW channel, because that usually clashes with us. But I'm happy to say that we've won out. We've beaten the Girl of Steel, because they've moved their date to Sundays. So they'll be premiering season 4 on the 14th, and will be then running without any hassle from her on the 15th. So I'm delighted by that development. And then at the end of the month, we've got our second running of our town hall and showcase. And the last showcase we ran was really a bit exhausting. We had 20 startups go up and speak for 5 minutes, and Lord knows how it didn't turn into just mayhem, but it seemed to go okay. But I think this year we're going to kind of concentrate on a smaller number of newer companies to town, and intersperse them with some things about what we're doing. So as a collective. So that's kind of what we're about for Blockchain Month. Go to the website. There's a page on the website which will link to all of these events and any more to come. We will be blogging more about it. We'll be tweeting until you're sick of us. And we'll be doing a bit of email outreach, which we don't actually do a lot of email stuff, to tell people about the great things happening. So any quick questions about Austin Blockchain Month before I hand over to our feature? You are too. Dan?
One quick comment. So Bloomberg TV is doing a new educational documentary series, and it's going to be airing in January and February of 2019. They're actually going to be in town filming OneChain and the Texas Bitcoin Conference on the 28th and 29th.
Oh, yeah?
So I think we can get them to come to that event on the 29th too, and feature the Austin Blockchain Collective and everyone presenting there.
And you can make that happen?
I think so, yeah.
Good. I might buy you a beer if you can do that. Bloomberg, I love Bloomberg. Any more? Any more?
I just have a housekeeping item with these. I don't want these driver's licenses sitting back here. So Scott, is yours? Okay. Oh yeah, that's a question for Todd. How does he get his ticket to South by Southwest?
I just need your email address. I'll come grab it from you.
Jeffrey David Bissinger. Oh. You? Yeah, thank you. All right. And then I have a Texas share card with Sabu Aziz. Excellent.
Good. Lovely. Okay. With that, I'm going to get on with our feature presentation, or rather, I'm going to introduce this speaker, and he will do it. Presentation on blockchain for business-to-business apps from Mark Price, from a company to DevSlopes, and Mark is new to Austin, and his company is new to Austin. They moved here from a very backward place called California. And so we're very pleased to have you, Mark, your team here. Give us a moment to sync his laptop up and we'll take it away.
Thank you. What time should I end?
I don't know, what time is it now? About 8:30-ish is good. Does that work?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We need to unzinc this, so you probably need to sync it up, do you?
Yeah, I should be good to go once.
Turn AirPlay off. Okay. Good. Plug that in.
Oh,
Don't take my.
I won't, I promise.
I keep leaving my power packs here. There's the mic. Let's see if you can get going.
Okay. We are.
Austin city limits. And there might be a code come up.
Enter the code 649. Great.
Golly.
Thank you.
Okay, so here's the mic.
Thank
Carry
you.
on. Make sure you use these clips, otherwise this thing flies off.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, here we go.
Mark, as a reminder too, this is being streamed live on Austin Tech Live, so just so you know.
So do or don't do which thing?
You've seen what it looked like all night, just do your best.
All right. Hey everyone. Thanks for staying here to listen to me. My name is Mark Price. I'm CEO of a company called DevSlopes. So I'll talk about that in just a second. And this presentation is called Blockchain for B2B, or it could be called multiple things. But really the premise of this is blockchain for businesses, production-ready applications. I'm not talking experimentation. I'm not talking about creating the decentralized revolution with Vitalik at the head riding a horse and a spear. None of that kind of stuff. This is about business and about what can we do today? What kind of advice would I give businesses as they're launching blockchain applications, corporate or startups or otherwise? And so I'm going to try and not be controversial in any of the technologies and this and that. And this is from personal experience and what we're doing over at DevSlopes. And that's kind of how this is built here. So CEO of DevSlopes and a company called Blockstar. And basically DevSlopes is a training company. We've taught over 350,000 students programming, and in the last year been focusing on blockchain and doing a lot of in-person trainings the past year as well too, going to corporations worldwide, doing trainings on Ethereum, Hyperledger, and other blockchain technologies. And I also operate a company called Blockstart, which builds on the Catapult NEM blockchain that was recently open source, and it's a blockchain as a service. So a lot of what we do at DevSlopes in the training side of things is which blockchain should I choose? What should I do for my business? Or I'm in healthcare, how do I use blockchain? Or I'm in government, how do I use blockchain? Or different use cases like that. And there are different tools for the jobs. And there's different things that you can do, and so we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and maybe there's some things in here that can help you make some decisions for your business. One other thing I want to point out here is that we are creators of certifications with Pearson VUE in association with the Blockchain Training Alliance. I actually created the Ethereum certification as well as one for blockchain architecture, and a lot of our training courses push to help students and developers become certified. So DevSlopes, we just located here, and so legally, as of 2 days ago, officially, so we are one of those people that you hear about and hate, moving from California over here for all the exact same reasons that everyone else is doing it. And but happy to be here. Love it here. My family lives in Bee Cave, Texas. We love it here. Very, very cool place. And so we are starting trainings here. We're going to be launching a blockchain training center, location pending. I'm working on that now, but we do have some trainings coming up during this blockchain month, specifically in regards to Hyperledger as well as Ethereum. And you can go to devslopes.com/blockchain to learn more about that, or talk to me about it. So the presentation, which blockchain should I choose? And Surprisingly, this is a very common question asked by many businesses and people that we encounter. Unfortunately, they often ask it too late. They'll say, well, we've only heard about Ethereum, for instance. We've never heard about this chain. And we've only heard about, let's say, Hyperledger. And I may give them some advice. Well, what kind of business do you have? Well, I might recommend learning this. No. And then so they go through the training, pay a lot of money, and they're like, this is not going to work for our business. Like, this is not going to work. And so which blockchain should I choose can actually be a very costly question if you don't think about it before you actually choose what you're going to build. And so as I'm going to talk about blockchains and some of their features and benefits, I want you to keep in perspective that, so DevSlopes, our training company, we teach blockchain technology, but we also develop on all of these various platforms that I'm about to present to you or have developed. And so we know some of their strengths and weaknesses, and we know some of the things that clients like corporations or startups are running into, or some of the needs that they have. And so it's all focused around the business side of blockchain. Okay, so what we'll cover is production-ready blockchains and their major features. Production-ready according to Mark Price, so just keep that in mind. This is not from, you know, any official website. This is based on our practical experience in working with customers and corporations. Slow animation there, wow. And then the questions you need to ask yourself to make the right decision. Okay, very important questions actually. So production-ready blockchains. So the ones we're going to cover today and talk about some of their strengths in relation to a B2B type of setting is Hyperledger Fabric specifically, Ripple, Stellar, NEM, and Ethereum. And yes, we are aware that there are other blockchains, but these are ones that we have personally developed on and trained clients on and seem to be the most popular for trainings or when corporations or businesses are looking for advice or to build things. Okay, so Hyperledger Fabric. Hyperledger Fabric is a blockchain framework for building permission networks. Fabric is also highly customizable with its component-based architecture. Okay, Hyperledger, that's a hard word to say. Hyperledger Fabric was really pushed or is pushed by IBM and the Linux Foundation. Lots of contributions, and it's actually really well done. It's a very cool platform. So let's talk about the use cases for Hyperledger Fabric. So one big use case is chain of custody, supply chain and logistics, and a perfect use case is Walmart has been working with IBM and Hyperledger Fabric to better track where their food came from and other things that are very important to know, and to know when the hands shifted and how long has it been in storage containment, how long not. And the cool thing about it is they want it to, the most important feature for them is that notion of an immutable ledger. But they don't want it to be some public blockchain. This is just important for them, important for their regulators or people who matter, because you have employees or logistics people who might cheat the system or who might mark things as complete or fresh when they're actually not. And so for an internal company, a blockchain has a very big use case for their chain of custody with supply chain. So it's a huge use case for Hyperledger Fabric because they don't want the rest of the world to see it. And Hyperledger Fabric is a permission blockchain. So any industry with regulation, this is a huge one as well too. Here's a perfect example. General Motors, they have been building blockchain systems and experimenting with Hyperledger Fabric. So they have these, they make cars and vehicles, and then those need to get manufactured, then they need to get shipped, and they need to go to the dealer. And all along the way, there's multiple databases and multiple people and parties involved. And then on top of it all, they've got the government, breathing down their necks about, well, is this legit? Is this good? And right now, there's just tons of APIs, tons of paperwork, and Hyperledger Fabric, or just blockchain in general, is a huge lifesaver for them because now they can implement an entire blockchain system with all the people who matter, which are in their organization, and then they're going to force their like dealers and third parties to actually use the system in order to be vendors or parties, and now they can actually have complete transparency and immutability of the ledger, and also let regulators look in with certain permissions, not writing permissions, but perhaps viewing permissions to make sure, yes, everything is good to go. And so it's actually creating a lot of transparency and trust for consumers and for those who are involved in the regulation side of things. There's some slow animations. Okay, so identification and citizen tracking. You know, this again is not a controversial subject that I'm talking about, but that is being used for that right now in various locations and governments. They're doing it all over the place, Syria and other countries as well. And Hyperledger Fabric is good for that because it has permissions involved in it. It's not all public. Healthcare is a huge one. HIPAA, privacy, a whole bunch of other things. And Hyperledger Fabric is really what I would call the foremost blockchain for healthcare and in terms of delivering what it needs. Okay. Let's talk about the features of Hyperledger Fabric. This is really cool. It has a built-in database with the world state, and what that means is that it's really fast. It contains the most recent version of the data, so it doesn't have to scrape the blockchain. So Hyperledger Fabric is very, very fast. That's what that means right there. Permissioned at multiple levels. It can be permissioned at access levels, at read levels, at write levels. Who can write what types of data. You can geofence it. Hyperledger Fabric is built for permissions at multiple levels. You can basically design any type of authentication and permission system that you could possibly conceive with one or more organizations. Chain code, smart contracts, so these are on-chain smart contracts that reside on Hyperledger Fabric. And very easy to, for those of you who have worked with Ethereum, it's very easy with Hyperledger to upgrade or migrate your contracts. I might say 10 times easier than doing it on Ethereum. It's really fantastic, actually. And you can build your chain code in Go or JavaScript using Node. So that's specifically the chain code itself, the contracts, okay? Considerations, I didn't call these like failures or faults, but things that are very important for you to consider with Hyperledger Fabric is a production product requires DevOps, engineering, and system admin. This is no startup blockchain. You don't just go home and say, I'm gonna build my blockchain app and we're going to throw it out there. No, Hyperledger Fabric is very, very involved. The investment is going to be quite sizable because you have to build a lot of your permissions and your certifications and a lot of heavy lifting in the beginning. You can't get up and running with the product until you have a lot of these things in place. So most organizations that are working with Hyperledger in some way or form have somebody available for DevOps, loading them onto servers, getting them to the clients, engineering, that's the developers writing chain code itself, which is complex, and a system admin to actually say who can get onto the blockchain, who should not have access to it, and issue those credentials and things like that. So this is designed for permission. A lot of people ask me the question, well, can I just take off some permissions or all of them and just use it as my own blockchain? My answer is always going to be no. It is really, truly designed for permissions, and you have to do a lot of work to change those things around. Really, this was designed for business, corporations, healthcare, the big dogs, and this is speaking from personal experience working with companies and deploying and developing a lot of work. No direct REST or API access to the blockchain itself, so you can't really just build an iPhone app that talks directly to the blockchain. You've got to have intermediary servers and things like that. And so startup costs are very high, okay? Learning curve is also very steep. Hyperledger Fabric is highly complex, highly complex among blockchains. A lot of blockchains are complex, but Hyperledger Fabric has a lot of pieces with it, and to truly understand it, very complex. The learning curve is pretty high, and developer resources are pretty good. They've got documentation, tutorials, they've got some forums. It's not always updated, but if you're looking for developers for a Hyperledger Fabric application, you can sometimes find answers fairly quickly. So. Yep.
What is high, medium, low? What does that mean?
It just means Mark Price's interpretation of startup costs. So you're going to spend a higher amount of money getting, let's say, Hyperledger Fabric up and running for a product than, let's say, you might working with the NEM blockchain. So it's in comparison with blockchains across the board.
Oh, just blockchains.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, the cost of launching a Hyperledger production-ready application.
Question.
Yes.
Is there any permissions like that previous chart, permissions language that's going to go with it, or any thought to that?
Where I can say, I don't want you to know about my left-handedness.
Yes, if I understand correctly, but basically, a lot of the permissions are generated through tooling and certificates manually through some of their tools, but they also have built-in tooling such as Hyperledger Composer, which is a suite of tools that can rest on top of Hyperledger Fabric, and it comes complete with UI and system administration. So anybody who's on, or you as a system administrator using the blockchain can quickly go in and click things and add people and remove them.
This is for me as a patient, that's the big issue.
Oh, it's
That people will divulge things, and my insurance company will raise my, I mean, there are a whole bunch of use cases where I should, private citizen.
yeah. So it's a little more difficult with Hyperledger Fabric, like like all the way down to the consumer level, like, hey, here's my medical records and all that kind of stuff. It's like to actually be a member of the organization itself is very difficult because credentials have to be generated for every user on the network. And so most of these corporations are going to be building interfaces just like your current applications, which are centralized, like here's your mobile app, it talks to this server, and then that talks to the blockchain. But in my opinion, Hyperledger Fabric doesn't provide great provision for, let's say, 10,000 users signing up for a service and then being able to interact directly with the blockchain, because it's a very manual process. So Ripple, this is real interesting. I like Ripple. This is really cool. You see them in the news a lot doing crazy stuff, Consensus and Snoop Dogg and Lamborghinis and all that kind of stuff. It's a part of their marketing. But looking at their technology, this has been requested and rising requests for corporations and startups. Hey, I want to work with Ripple. Can you train us on that? And Ripple is a global real-time settlement network. Ripple is a blockchain network with many built-in features to make cross-border transactions seamless. I like to think of Ripple as like if Wells Fargo took all of its banking features and put them into APIs and made them public and say anyone can develop on Wells Fargo, it's kind of like that. They've very specifically payment stuff pre-built for you to use for your various applications and use cases. So cross-border payments, and if you don't know what cross-border payments are, basically instant payments worldwide, very fast, right? Instant. Before, we have to go to a bank or Western Union, and that goes to another bank, and that goes somewhere else, and and then it just takes a long time, and there's huge fees. The idea behind Ripple is to remove that whole element of time, as well as to significantly decrease the fees, significantly, and making it easier for countries of lower income and other places to be able to better interact with maybe services or things available in other countries. Digital asset exchanges. This could be anything, but think of this. We're talking about digital assets. This could be house deeds, digitized or tokenized. This could be technically even video game assets. Like they have this built into their system where you can actually exchange digital assets, and you can create representations of those assets on Ripple. But again, very focused on financial. We're talking about assets, currencies, things like that, and really all throughout Ripple, there's a huge focus just on banking and cross-border payments. Digital securities and wealth management. So if you have a startup surrounding, hey, we want to tokenize, hedge funds. We want to create security tokens and help businesses be able to legally launch, let's say an ICO per se. That's not the right term, but it'd be security token offering. Ripple has support for that, high support for that. And general purpose payment applications using XRP. This could be wallets, this could be a payment gateway. You could literally build an iPhone app for, let's say you have a products that you sell online, whatever it may be, handbags, you could actually incorporate Ripple as a payment gateway for your product, and they have all the APIs available for that. So it's very developer friendly, even at the lowest levels. Okay, so features, it has a built-in escrow. I'm gonna move a little faster here. Supports Interledger protocol, so that's a protocol that a lot of blockchains are jumping on to create, so we can have one more or less giant internet of blockchains, and so that's built into Ripple. And when I say built-in escrow, escrow services are actually built into the features of the blockchain, which is nice. and a built-in decentralized exchange. So that's on-ledger exchange that actually is built directly into Ripple itself. You don't have to, you wouldn't have to program that. That's already there available for you to use. Multi-signature transactions. Currency creation. So you can actually create your own tokens or currencies or assets on the Ripple blockchain. So if I wanted to create my own token or coin, I can do that with Ripple with a few lines of code. Okay, and so, a JavaScript SDK. So they have a very powerful, robust JavaScript SDK, which is, of course, one of the most highly used languages, programming languages in the world. And the reason why I talk a little bit about tech, some of you guys may be like, I don't care about that, but it's very important. Okay, it's a lot easier to find JavaScript developers than it is to find Solidity developers. Solidity developers, I know some that have charged people $400,000 for like 3 months of work. So this is actually really, really important. Did you have someone have a question? Oh. Okay, so considerations. It's really designed for currency and payments. Don't try and use the system as it shouldn't be used. If you have a financial application of some sort, or a financial institution or bank or payment processing, you might want to consider Ripple. Otherwise, you might not want to consider it. Even though it's very easy to use, you don't want to use it as it's not intended. There's a heavy focus on banks, and also Ripple is a for-profit company, and so a lot of the decisions around what features and things are coming out are very driven down that line. So if you're thinking, oh, I need to be more decentralized and I want to have less outside influences, they may not be the right thing for you. And I will also say that because Ripple is really focused on banks, most of the solutions you'd have to code are going to require a centralized architecture somewhere in there. They took a look at the lay of the land, looked at Wells Fargo, Chase, and all these banks, and they said, well, this is how it is. Let's make it a little bit better. But just know that for a full-blown Ripple application, somewhere along the line, you're likely going to have a centralized service in their API, mobile apps, whatever it may be. Startup costs. The reason why I put startup costs higher on this end is because the main use cases for Ripple often require multiple parties involved, which could be banks or payment processors who you may have to onboard, and there's a lot of protocols you might have to abide, especially on the legal side. So yes, you can use JavaScript to talk to the API, but you have a lot of the other payment things that you can do have a lot of legal and other types of things surrounding it. Learning curve is fairly low. It's very easy to learn. You could get developers developing on it right away. You could even make a prototype app probably within a couple of days or less, depending on what you're building. And they have fantastic developer resources, tons of tutorials and documentation, but most of the support is in JavaScript, and there's lack of support for other languages. Yeah.
If Hyperledger Fabric is a 10 in permissioning, where would Ripple sit?
So they have different levels of cryptography and security. I wouldn't even, I'm not sure I would call it like permissions in the sense of who can access this or not. More so, it's more so about security. So I would say that Hyperledger is about permissions and designing your permissions, whereas Ripple does a whole bunch of things and has its various levels of security and such that are built in, but you don't have a lot of flexibility there. Stellar, I love Stellar. Stellar's fantastic. It is really just a fantastic blockchain. Very fun. You can tell they're very open and developer friendly. It's a platform that connects banks, payment systems, and people, integrate to move money quickly, reliably, and at almost no cost. I did not write that. That came from their website. Use cases. So micropayments. So this is so cool. They're really focusing on micropayments. So my buddy, his name is Red Fu. He's a musician artist from LMFAO. He's one of the original investors in DevSlopes. And he tells me that the music industry, for instance, is very, very difficult in terms of royalties, and artists really they lose a lot of money. In fact, no artist is really happy with how that system works. And so a lot of artists like him and Pitbull, they are pushing for actually blockchain and micropayments. And it's the idea of somebody listens to my song, and it's only 10 cents per listen, or maybe a penny per listen, or 3 cents per listen, right? Well, right now it's impossible with current payment systems, credit card processors and such, because the fee is going to be like 30 cents, and you're not going to make any money. So it's nearly impossible to build this. But with blockchain and with Stellar, that would be very possible and wouldn't be hard to code and build out and launch in a production environment at all. And so micropayments, we're significantly reducing fees. We're talking about pennies for microtransactions, which is great for multiple industries as well as countries that are more financially destitute. Banking, loans, and savings. This is really cool. You can actually build out an entire banking system using purely purely Stellar. An entire banking system, everything you'd need for transferring funds and building things out for the applications for the users and the security. And the reason for this is because Stellar supports fiat currencies and has a built-in exchange, which I'll talk about here in a second. Mobile payment providers, so you can, that's another focus of theirs. So if you want to create the next Square, you know, with card readers and things like that, like Stellar's built for that. That's one of their huge use cases. Come in, create a mobile payment provider. I mean, you have to handle all your stuff legally, but they have all the APIs there. You could, for limited cost, you could bring in developers to build this with common programming languages and build out an entire mobile payment service like Square because they built all the infrastructure on the blockchain. General payment processing. Wallets, apps, the same thing as Ripple I mentioned earlier, but I think I have one more on here. Yeah. Oh, here it is. So yeah, the built-in exchange. That's what I wanted to talk about. Check this out. This is so cool. They have a built-in exchange on the blockchain itself. Euro, US dollar, whatever. It's all meaning it's built into the platform. You're not writing code and working with agencies and governments and currency vendors. You're not working with any of them. It's built into the platform. So here's a perfect example. Let's say, currently DevSlope, so we accept Stripe for payment. They take lots of my money away, cheaper than other places, but they have the convenience there. Ironically, Stellar is founded by some of the original people at Stripe or investors into Stellar. But basically, Stellar does everything that Stripe does, for much lower costs, and it supports multiple currencies with their built-in exchange. So I could literally remove Stripe from my website, integrate Stellar, and people could still pay in their various currencies, fiat and otherwise. And that's all built into their platform, ready to go. And I could actually accept more money from more people and more places using Stellar. And a single app developer could do this, which is really, really cool. Again, the legal and all the other things you have to consider if you're working in any type of specialized industry. It does have smart contracts built into the platform itself. Multi-signature transactions. Custom currency and token creation, you can do that there. Again, this is really focused around currency though, okay? And a lot of times it's holdings, like my currency, which represents this, transferred for this, but you can build your own token on Stellar. It's also open source, by the way. You could even launch your own Stellar network. And REST API with mobile capabilities. This is a huge thing that clients that we work with, like, they don't realize. Like, we're talking about like Ethereum, for instance, and they're like, well, I want my mobile app to talk to it. I was like, okay, well, we're gonna have to build some APIs and things like that. Well, no, I want it to be fully decentralized. I was like, well, you know, Ethereum's not really good for that. It's a big, big deal to be able to have your mobile apps talk directly to the blockchain and sign transactions directly to the blockchain, because that's accessibility. That makes it very easy to rapidly deploy and create good user experiences, and they handle all of the security and such on the APIs, and those APIs run on the various with the various blockchain nodes. Oh, one more feature is huge support Java, JavaScript, Go, iOS, Python, Ruby, C#, an array of SDKs available and common programming language to build those fully decentralized client applications, what that means is it's easier to find developers, much easier to find developers. Considerations, Stellar is built for payments and transactions. Again, don't abuse the system. They think of all these new features that would be great for payments, and then that's what they build. And so you don't have a lot of flexibility there. So Stellar is a foundation, and there is no real formal support. So they have like Slack channels and forums and stuff. But if you're an enterprise and you often pull the trigger on those massive enterprise level support packages, you're not going to get it from Stellar, and the integration partners are fairly few right now. So you're going to have to pioneer a lot of the things on your own. Have really smart developers, but it's really easy to use. Startup costs are fairly low. They can, of course, go very high depending on what you're building, but a solo app developer or a prototype could be built very, very fast, days. Learning curve, pretty low, very easy to learn. The developer resources are super high, like clean documentation. You could hire a developer and they could get up and running really fast without a whole lot of help.
Question.
Yes?
So when you say that it's a foundation, there's no real support, you mean there's like, the fact that there will be no actual support from any sort of like in terms of development or something?
Correct. So since we train a lot of corporations, especially, they like support. They want to pay companies, like when they have real big problems and they got to push it through, they want official support. I'm sure there are people over at Sellers who might make custom deals, but they have no support program for people who need on-demand help at an enterprise or developer level, more or less. Yeah.
Do you have any actual working like enterprise applications in production today on each of these that you could potentially provide us?
I don't. So we just basically train on these platforms, the systems, and then the training seminars, we build out the applications. We do have, my company does have production deployed applications on the NEM blockchain, and in the early days Ethereum. But for instance, Hyperledger, like, I mean, we'd spend months building out an application and the highly customization and things like that. So the answer to that is no.
If I wanted to find out if some of these would be good for projects that I'm working on and that I've invested in, I would like to bring them in if they make sense and if they would make the projects better. Who could you send us to or send me to that could hear about the different and look at some of the projects I'm working on and see what would be good for each of those projects?
Yeah.
And then how do you go about hiring the people for those pieces?
Yeah, that's a good question. First off, just off the cuff, you can get my card. I give my personal free advice all the time. Happy to help in that regard. And then it's a matter of really identifying, like figuring out what you actually need, and then you know, if you kind of have a direction, you want to find somebody technical who can like really look into it. The problem with blockchain right now is there's a lot of people who are experts, which is fine, and who post a lot of very scholarly articles. There's lots of debates going on, but it can be very, very confusing to get right information. And so my opinion is the best people you could ever talk to get the right advice is developers, people who are actually in the code. Because if you're not in the code, I can sit there and talk about Ethereum versus this versus that, and consensus and algorithms and all that. But unless you've actually written the code, you really don't know the limitations and things like that. So kind of get an idea of the semi-direction of what you need, and then find a technical person, a developer. Of course, go to meetups like this and such, who maybe who can give you some more insights. And then, of course, at my company, we do trainings like for people who've decided what they want to learn. We do trainings on that as well too. It's hard right now though. Lots of learning. Wild West still.
Right, and you could give a lot of money to a developer that said he knew how to do all sorts of stuff. It was just a really great speaker, and or you know, someone that you just meet and you're talking to them, and they could say they know how to do all of this, and then then you could end up wasting a lot of money
All
because
early.
maybe they don't know how to do anything.
It's all early. This is, I mean, to be honest, this is all very theoretical because there's no enterprise applications out there in production. No one's actually proved any of this out fully yet.
Well, so there are enterprise deployed across the board, but the enterprise people it's in their internal. Like, so I know GM has theirs in operation. Walmart. Did you say you knew some or?
Yeah, no, I mean, so I'll speak on behalf of NIM, not on behalf of the other blockchains, but NIM does actually work with enterprises. We have a permission chain and public chain. To go into what you're saying, a lot of companies right now are building on permission chain because they have data that they want to test on the blockchain or use blockchain, but they don't want everyone looking at their data, right? So the kind of things that you're looking for, you want to find companies that are actually not just building on blockchain like Mark is saying, but actually deploying that's the big thing, and making sure that they have real companies that have built and deployed in the verticals that you're looking for. For medical and finance and things like that, you need to find blockchains that match with companies. And unfortunately, kind of what Mark is kind of nudging you to is there's no side-by-side comparison that easily shows all of the blockchains and what they do and what they, and everyone has their own perspective because they're all pitching you their blockchain product, right? So he's right. These kind of conversations with developers that are actually working on the code really are the best way
And
to
so
find
going
out.
to meetups and with where they're developers and people in the industry and listening to their conversations and looking at who they're doing projects for
Yeah.
now might be a good start, because some of it that I wanna do is simple, like one of them that I'm invested in is an event platform that will have ticketing in it.
Yeah,
But
there's-
we wanna use a payment system,
Yeah,
like
there's
one of these in
blockchains.
blockchain to exchange money and maybe even tie into Bitcoin as opposed to only allowing traditional. And then, so I've got 3-4 projects that I'm invested in right now, and I wanna pick out some really cool new technologies to try with each one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, and that segues into this, and then we'll wrap up here. Prototyping is really important. Spending smaller amounts of money to prototype what you're looking for, regardless of the platform that it is. And I will say, a really good platform to prototype on is this one I'm talking about now, which is the NEM blockchain. And I'll tell you why in just a second here. But NEM is, these are actually my words. NEM is a multi-purpose blockchain platform designed to support any type of asset, known as smart assets. NEM maintains a public blockchain in addition to an open source chain known as Catapult. Okay, I'm gonna, yeah.
What would you consider to be a smart asset?
I'm gonna talk about that here. Let me just talk about that here in just a second. I have a section on it here. So Internet of Things, I love how easy it is. I've actually successfully deployed low-level Bluetooth applications on a receiver to an iPhone app to the NEM blockchain. The use cases for are endless, and it's super easy Internet of Things with the NEM blockchain. And tokenization, similar to Ripple or Stellar, you can tokenize assets. But what's really cool is because of the robust APIs, you could even tokenize things like mobile console and PC gaming, like games like Clash of Clans, Clash Royale. They can take out their centrally controlled coins and tokens and actually integrate decentralized distributed token systems and create economies and things like that, creating more trust for players and people involved. Or tokenization like Nintendo Dollar, things like that. Supply chain and asset tracking, similar to Hyperledger and such. Asset tracking is very simple on NEM. Very useful. UPS could load packages up using the smart assets, create a new smart asset for each of their packages and track them. Voting, notarization, and certifications. Voting and notarization are actually built into the platform, which is really cool. And certifications. DevSlopes has actually issued certifications to students on the blockchain that's there forever, non-transferable, which is really awesome. And I'm just hurrying through here because we're about out of time here. What I think is really cool is you can actually launch your own network using NEM open source, your entire blockchain network, which is really awesome. Or you can, with a few lines of code, deploy to their existing public blockchain. This is one of my favorites, a built-in REST API. So your mobile apps can actually talk straight to the blockchain. iOS, Android, assign transactions, and you can actually have a fully decentralized mobile app. In fact, my other company, Blockstart, we're about to launch our very own mobile wallet on the NEM blockchain. It's called the NEM Meteor Wallet, and it's fully decentralized, which I think is really fantastic. Custom currency or token creation, that's on the financial side. You can do that all with NEM and the smart assets, and then smart asset creation. So smart assets really are assets or things that you can create on behalf of anything. Cryptocurrency, a package for UPS delivery. This could be a house deed. It could be anything you could think of. It's really cool, actually. It's all built into the APIs and systems on the NEM blockchain, so you could literally build any type of application you can think of. It's almost like working with, let's say, Amazon AWS or some of those other services that have all these different features, and you can build whatever to your heart's content. So that's one of the most powerful features of the NEM blockchain. Namespaces and domains, you can actually have your own registered namespace, so your data is not mixing with other data, and you can direct your applications there. And developer SDKs in Python, Java, C#, JavaScript, Ruby, PHP, and Go. Go through this real quick here, but Catapult is their open source blockchain, has built-in escrow and decentralized atomic swaps, things like that. Very easy to deploy your own network if that's what you needed. One consideration, though, is there's no smart contracts on the NEM blockchain, so there's no on-chain autonomous self-managing code on the NEM blockchain. The secure transactions happen on the blockchain, but application code happens off-chain, however you want to build it and deploy it. So this is by design. The idea was to capture a good 80% of business use cases while being practical. So we can do things like have mobile apps talk to the blockchain, which I think was a really good decision. It's flexible, which also has the other downside of you have to build your own tools. If you want to build a UPS app, you're going to have to build all the tools and features around that. It's not like Ripple, where they built a whole bunch of API specific around payments and things like that. It's very flexible, which is really cool. Startup costs, super low. I've had 15-year-old developers in our audience like actually go and to hackathons and win a few $1,000s deploying like IoT applications and then in blockchain in 24 hours. The learning curve is super low. All the common programming languages available, and the developer resources are very available, so people can get up and running quickly. So we do all of our personal development at Blockstart on the NEM blockchain just because of its ease of use, and it's really easy to onboard businesses and customers onto it. So we're kind of out of time here. Yeah. Okay, great. So Ethereum. Now, this is where it gets a little controversial. I'll just say it out loud. I never recommend to clients to use Ethereum, and there's reasons why, but this is best exemplified in this conversation that I had with a customer who needed advice with their ICO, raising like I think $6 million, and they needed help figuring things out with Ethereum. We've done a lot of Ethereum training and some contract projects, a lot of consulting on architecture, and they wanted to be able to, it's like a sports betting app where you can bet on mobile video games like Clash of Clans and see who wins, and then you can do payouts and things like that. And they didn't know, what do I use, Ethereum? What should I do? And they said, well, we want our own. We want to be able to control, all of our own nodes, right? We don't want like a chain that can actually that exists out there already, because we have some security things. And by the way, they literally had hired an Ethereum developer already and paid them money up front for contract work. And he's telling me in this conversation that he can't have a public blockchain. More or less, he didn't understand it, but he couldn't have that. And then we have a series of questions when someone comes with us, like for consulting. And one of the questions was, because they're raising an ICO, the question is, are you aware that smart contracts on the Ethereum blockchain are actually public, meaning anyone can look at the code and call the functions on anyone? And this is not the first time. And every time they're like, are you kidding me? No, that can't be right. I was like, yeah, that's right. That's completely right. Well, we can't have that. Like every single time I have a conversation with a client, they are not aware of some of the things that are involved with Ethereum that are important to them. So usually when I'm working with the businesses or in the training, what will happen is they'll take the Ethereum training and they'll say, we can't implement this at JP Morgan Chase, or that's not a good example. Who was the bank? Ooh, it's a bank we did. JP Morgan Chase actually was smart about it, and I'll talk about that in a second. They actually created a version of Ethereum called Quorum, which I think is a much better solution with permissions and other things like that. But most of the time, someone does an Ethereum training, and then they come back for Hyperledger. It works for me, but. So Ethereum use cases, I really thought about this in comparison with other blockchains. Escrow services, I really feel like if I'm comparing all the blockchains, escrow services are really the core point of, or core advantage of Ethereum, meaning I mentioned how NEM, for instance, doesn't have on-chain autonomous smart contracts, and that's very important. This is very important to a lot of people, so it's a very important use case. If you need your code absolutely must run decentralized, and the code itself must run decentralized. So if the code is not running, so when I build an iPhone app and I'm talking Stellar or Ripple, I have code running on the iPhone app signing transactions, okay? And things like that, among other transactions. But if I absolutely need my logic to be on the chain and no one can touch it, and I need those custom conditions built in, you should use Ethereum, hands down. So autonomous insurance services, that's a thing that's been rising up a lot lately. These are people who will pay money, invest in insurance, and then other people will pay insurance, and then based on conditions, money is released. Like, it's all automated. So those are the big use cases, in my opinion, of Ethereum. If you need completely managed code where you can tell anybody, this code is completely untouched and it runs itself, because that's what Ethereum, that's the core value of Ethereum, is the smart contracts, autonomous smart contracts, meaning self-managing. And by the way, this is a debate because a lot of people are very passionate about Ethereum. Coming from a training perspective, people spend a lot of money on Ethereum, and a lot of times they move to other blockchains. And Ethereum developers are very expensive. I had a booth at a conference in San Francisco, and I was like, we're training on blockchain. We're making it so simple. And I literally had this guy come up to me. He's like, I think this is all crap. I'm like, what? I'm like, what? He's like, I think that Ethereum developers should be elite. Like, you are literally taking away our ability to create very valuable code and projects that nobody else knows. And I said, that's the absolute opposite. That's the worst thing I've ever heard. I was like, that is not what we need. We need it to be easier. And it's expensive. Like I said, I know an Ethereum developer who charged around $400,000 over the course of 3 to 4 months for contract services. And then the companies often have to get smart contract security experts to look at them to make sure that the code is okay, because every line of code is completely readable by any party at any time, okay? And we have Wells Fargo getting hacked and other companies over the years. This is just a lot easier if you have the code right in front of you, in my opinion. I usually present it as such, but it's a very debatable topic. Not everyone agrees with me. Yes?
So what's the business model of open source for-profit blockchain platform?
So that's what we're doing. So for instance, Blockstart, my company, we're building a blockchain as a service using the open source NEM blockchain. And what we're doing is we're providing tools and systems and support for people who are building blockchain applications. And so there's monetization models in support. There's monetization models in building tools and systems and things like that. Oh yeah, it's a lot of them are foundations like Ethereum, but it's the cryptocurrency, the underlying cryptocurrency. People have the ability to acquire wealth and/or become rich and generate money from mining and things like that as well too. So there's like profit incentives in those types of public blockchains. I think Ethereum is great personally for experimentation. Next-gen autonomous applications. I know there are a lot of people very passionate about building decentralized applications that no man can touch, like future cyberpunk, like 100%. And I think it's important, actually. I really think it's important that we move in that direction to take parties out of it. But the reality is, trust exists right now. You have to trust business partners. You have to trust, like, we're getting there. And I don't think, my professional opinion, that Ethereum is ready for production or enterprise level applications just yet. And we can talk, I'm happy to answer any more questions about that. I'm gonna end it right here, actually. By the way, I did want to say, use Quorum. So Quorum is a version of Ethereum by JP Morgan Chase. If you're interested in having permissions and you really want to work with Ethereum, and they've made a lot of enhancements, Quorum is really awesome. You can launch your own Ethereum blockchain network very quickly with Quorum. So. Yeah, I'm going to end it right here since we're over time. This is my first time giving this presentation, so I built more content than we had time for. So, yeah, that's what, questions or time out?
Yeah, any more questions?
Yes.
Any thoughts on R3's quarter?
Oh, that's in my presentation later on, but I didn't get to it. Enterprise loves it, and they actually have huge support. Like, they actually make, their profit model is enterprise support, training and things like that. But R3 Corda is highly requested. Actually, I haven't trained on it yet, but we get requests for it, and I haven't even developed on it yet either. But I've looked at the API documentation, and it seems very simple to use, and enterprises really like it. Definitely consider it.
Any chance you can sell it to your site deck?
Oh yeah. You said send it or what?
Oh, yeah, well, but give it to someone.
Yeah. Sure. Pete has it too.
If it's okay, we'll put it up somewhere on the collection.
Yeah.
Meetup group.
Yeah, and this is according to Mark Price and DevSlopes and all that. There's no white papers behind it.
Any input you have on multi-chain?
Like multiple chains talking to each other, or
Well, no, getting Greenspan.
I'm not completely following.
That's fine.
Okay, yeah,
We're partnering with them.
yeah. Sorry.
What's the core value prop of Ripple versus Stellar?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a really good question. I know that Ripple is working very hard to get in with the banks, whereas everyone else is like decentralized, screw the banks. They're like, no, let's get in and work together, and so that's a really good question. They obviously have their XRP as well too, and I also know that they have enterprise features that are on their website that are contact only. So there may be some profit in there as well too. And as far as I can tell, Stellar it's just all about their currency, like the generation of profits with the currency itself. Because and this is just based on what I've seen. I haven't seen any statements on that. Stellar's a foundation, and Ripple is like a nonprofit foundation, and Ripple is a for-profit private company. So, any other questions?
Yeah.
Someone behind you.
Have you heard about a thing called Timeless? Is that considered a blockchain or just an integrator?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with it.
It's a European thing.
Okay, yeah.
It's been presented here just a month ago. Seems to have some interest.
Timeless, is that what you said?
Yeah, TYMLEZ.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard of
I
it.
don't know if anybody else, did they go to the meeting?
That was the blockchain technology meetup, I think, wasn't it?
What's that?
That was the blockchain technology meetup. Did that, Mark?
Yeah, blockchain tech.
Yeah. Did he put up any slides around that? I think he
Well, it
did,
was
didn't he?
interesting because, I don't think so, because the developers are in like Ukraine, and they, at that time of night, it was guys staying up at like 3 or 4, and they were having some communication problems.
Yeah, they were probably
One more question?
Yeah, can you comment anything about the lawsuits against Ripple? Are you familiar?
I've read them. I think it's funny. I think Ripple's playing a little too hard, but I honestly don't. Well, there's lawsuits on lots of these companies right now.
And you're only going to hear more is that as the regulators
Thank
come
you.
down, they're actually, I sat in with the SEC the other day, and they are starting to prosecute cases from 2014 and 2015. They got a little while to go on 2017, 2018, so it's all happening now.
Make your
It
moves
is.
before they get to you.
Yeah.
So, Mark, thanks so much for that sort of very quick overview of, 5 blockchains. But just quick follow-up notes. The October 17th session with Ron from Enterprise Ethereum, that is a development which is moving forward specifically to address some of the issues that Mark's coming up with and mentioned with the public Ethereum blockchain. So if you're into Ethereum and want to sort of see where they're going, definitely come to that. Interesting that Stellar, you're a big fan of, so they're one of their big startups behind it acquired Chain, the company, last week. Huge bet, because Chain's got backing from lots of financial companies. And I think IBM's doing a lot of stuff with Stellar.
Yeah, they are.
So Stellar's something, definitely, we're going to try and get Stellar in here. And if you can try and do anything with Corda, I'd love to have those guys come down and do something, because they're not in Boston as far as I know. So
They're like a European company, aren't they?
they're kind of Europe and US, but very financial and a bit of supply chain there. So okay, thank you everyone for coming. Takeaways are go to our website, really, austinblockchaincollective.com, because from there you will find pointers to everywhere, including signing up there, sending us an email. The emails come to me, so questions throw them that way. LinkedIn group, blog, Twitter, follow it all, and you'll hear and you'll find out through those channels about Austin Blockchain Month, which is going to be insane. See you in the middle of the insanity, October 15th. Thank you.